Neopets. Riding the Pokemania wave into the hearts of radical animal-loving preteens, it had an unshakable grip on 2000s internet culture. Some of you might be tempted to go log in and check on your old pals and see if they're still starving, but statistically speaking, there's a decent chance you'll find something far worse. That they're gone, vanished, stolen. Thanks to some controversial site changes in the late 2000s, some pets became shockingly valuable, worth hundreds of real-world US dollars, and hackers would stop at nothing to get their hands on them. A thriving black market emerged, where once beloved Neopets were stolen from their original accounts, sold, and traded illicitly in plain sight. But what exactly made these Neopets so valuable in the first place? How did real money trading impact the Neopets community as a whole? And can we still cash in on our old pets today in this economy? Let's take a deep dive into the internet past and explore the messy and controversial history of the Neopets black market. But first, welcome. I'm Amber. I draw cartoons for a living, make games for fun, and do cool little video essays on the side, where I like to talk about anime, 2000s internet culture, alt fashion, retro and indie games, basically whatever I feel like yapping about for an hour. If any of that sounds like something that you're into, I would love it if you poked that little subscribe button down below. But for now, let's get into it. So I'm gonna guess that most people watching this are at least somewhat familiar with Neopets, but just in case you're somehow totally in the dark, let me fill you in. Neopets is the oldest virtual pet website that's still around today. It launched all the way back in 1999, and personally, my original Neopets account is now 23 years old at the time of this recording. Neopets is kind of like an OG indie game success story. It was created by a young married couple from England, Adam and Donna Powell, and within just 3 months of launching, Neopets went super viral, accumulating 600,000 daily page views, which was a lot for 1999, okay? By 2002, the site had exploded into a full-blown international franchise, expanding its worlds and characters into things like a trading card game, clothing, plushies, and even McDonald's Happy Meal toys, which we did get into fights about on the playground, by the way. The absolute chokehold that Neopets had on both kids and adults at the time had caught the attention of entertainment conglomerate Viacom, and in 2005, Viacom bought Neopets for $160 million US dollars. Following this, the original Neopets creators very quickly bowed out and left the company due to creative differences, which in retrospect, probably should have been a clear sign for the trouble to come. Viacom's strategy was to try and make more money off of the Neopets brand by adding more ads to the website and by trying to make the Neopets experience as a whole more interactive. This included introducing site-wide multiplayer events like the Altador Cup, and finally adding in the long-requested feature of Neopets customization, allowing users to dress up their pets with unique clothing, hairstyles, and makeup. Customizing avatars is a pretty standard feature in most online games nowadays, and Reddit for some reason, but back then it was huge, especially for Neopets. Before customization, the only way you could really make your Neopet stand out from the rest was through the use of paintbrushes, which all pets painted the same color would still look the same, so it didn't really make them stand out all that much. Anyway, so when the customizer beta launched, there were some mixed opinions, but in my research, it appeared that overall, the community was pumped. This is something that people had been asking for forever, and smaller competing websites like Subeta had already introduced avatar customization. But there was a catch. To make the customization work, the Neopets team had to redraw all of the Neopets in simple, standardized poses. Mostly so the art team wouldn't be forced into redrawing the same clothing items thousands of different ways. Trust me, I've been working on a character customizer for the indie game I'm making, and I know from firsthand experience that all of these iterations add up fast to thousands and thousands of drawings. The power of exponents, baby! But for Neopets, what this meant was that all of the original dynamic pet poses would have to be replaced with more stiff and boring poses. That, to many Neopets users, didn't feel quite as appealing. Even with this in mind, the general consensus remained that Neopet customization would be cool and fun, as long as converting your Neopets to the new art style was an optional choice. And at the time, everyone seemed to believe that this would be the case, because the beta version of the customization system actively let you swap between the converted new artwork and the unconverted old artwork at any time. It seemed like the perfect middle ground. And then the Neopets Armageddon happened. Or at least that's what one NeoColors user called it. On April 27th, 2007, Neopets users started flooding offsite forums complaining that the site was down. When it finally came back up, they were suddenly greeted by a completely alien version of the virtual world they had come to know and love. Not only was the base website unrecognizably overhauled, but the Neopet customization feature was fully launched and out of beta. And you know how everyone thought that converting your Neopet for customization would be optional? Yeah, no, it wasn't optional at all. The grand majority of players logged in to find that their rare, expensive Neopets had been completely transformed without their input or consent. The community response to these sudden changes was horrific. What the hell is this? I honestly have no words to describe how ugly and cluttered this is. It's just wrong on so many levels. If they keep this layout, I seriously am going to quit. Their own shop logs won't even work anymore. They redrew some of my pets. I'm going to kill them. Visually, the converted Neopets were a huge downgrade. The old pet artwork had many unique poses to fit the varying situations they'd find themselves in across the site. They were dynamic and full of character. Meanwhile, the converted pets were stuck with only one single static pose, with only subtle facial expression changes to indicate one of their 4 moods. So whether your Neopet was happy, sick, or kicking butt at the Battle Dome, they just kinda stood there.
He's just standing there, menacingly.
What really seemed to get under people's skins was that not all Neopets were converted to the new art style. A very select few pets got to keep their old artwork, and at the time, it felt arbitrary and didn't make a lot of sense to the players. The clear pattern to me is that the Neopets that were allowed to remain unconverted were the ones that had special posing or radically different designs from the standard artwork of that species, due to their specific paintbrush color. The clearest visual example of this are the gray-colored Neopets. They were pretty universally loved for having unique design variations and posing compared to the other color options for their species. And when you compare unconverted gray Neopets to their converted counterparts, the difference is night and day. The Neopets team official explanation at the time also matches up with the pattern that I'm seeing. We've had to update some of the Neopets art to make them compatible with the customized system. In the cases where we felt the change was very drastic, we've added the option to choose. If you and your Neopet are eligible for that option, you'll see a Convert This Neopet link on QuickRef. Click that for more information. I wanted to do some rough math, so I used Reddit user Azyuki's chart of all possible Neopet color and species combinations, removing all of the colors and species that didn't exist when customization first launched. Out of roughly 2,600 possible color and species combinations at the time, only 227 were allowed to remain unconverted. That meant that out of all of the Neopets that had ever existed on the site up until this point, only 9% were given the option to remain unconverted, and 91% of all Neopets ever were forced into the new converted look, with their owners having no way at all to undo it. As the rotten cherry on top, all new Neopets created after the customization system was implemented would be created in the new converted art style as well, regardless of species or color. And once you converted an unconverted pet, you could never unconvert them again. It was a permanent decision. For many, this meant that the dream pets they had been working toward owning for years were now completely unattainable. As the chaos and outrage unfolded, the Neopets team teased the community with a potential glimmer of hope. We would also like to mention that if you aren't happy with the change to any of your Neopets, don't go hunting for a morphing potion just yet. You may find justice early next week. If, in the meantime, you need to get out some anger or aggression, may we suggest playing a round or two of Whack a Staff Member? Dubbed the Great Neopian Justice, the Neopets fandom mulled over this communication at great lengths, with most people assuming that it was TNT's promise to the players that they would eventually get the opportunity to unconvert their Neopets if they wished to do so. But weeks turned into months, months turned into years, and the promised justice never came. Adding insult to injury, the Neopets team also launched the beta for the Neocache Mall, a place where users could spend real-world money on customization options for the pets that were converted against their will. During the Neocache Mall beta, the Neocache items were also stated to have an expiration date. So the shirt that you paid $5 real-world dollars for the Neopet they converted against your will would disappear forever 1 year after purchase. Cash grab much? Still, some players continued to cling on to the hope that their justice would come and that they'd be able to restore their beloved Neopets to their former glory. But it just never happened. The conversion was final. This sudden and irreversible change caused many older Neopets users to abandon the site entirely. They were unhappy with the perceived disrespect for the community that had built the site in the first place, and the monetization first direction that Viacom was taking the community. But for a small group of very lucky users, the rare unconverted pets that they were left with would soon become something that they themselves could monetize. Unbeknownst to them, they were about to have a real-world goldmine on their hands. It didn't take Neopets users long to realize that an unconverted pet would remain unconverted indefinitely, unless manually converted by its owner. This was true even if the pet was abandoned and adopted by somebody new. That small detail began the rise of the unconverted Neopets trading scene. Though in the beginning it was incredibly risky because there was no built-in way to safely trade pets between users. The only option you really had was to abandon your pet in the Neopian pound where anybody could adopt it. So if you wanted to trade a pet with someone, you both had to be online at the same time, coordinating in real time. One person would release their pet, and the other person would sit in the pound, refreshing frantically until it appeared. Sometimes it worked, but very often what happened was that someone else would swipe the pet before the intended adopter could grab it. And once a pet was in the pound, it was fair game for everyone. No takebacks. In 2008, the Neopets team finally introduced pet transfers, a safe, direct way to send pets between users for the low cost of just 1,000 Neopoints. And with that, the unconverted Neopet trading scene exploded. A full-blown subculture sprang up, with its own rules, etiquette, and economy centered entirely around pet trading, something that hadn't existed at this scale before. This birthed the concept of pet valuation, the perceived worth of a Neopet based on two main factors. The rarity of a pet was largely driven by supply and demand. For example, the Halloween Loop was an extremely common Neopet to own prior to the conversion because they were tied to receiving certain on-site avatars. So that, combined with their overall low demand, usually because of their lack of aesthetic appeal, placed them down at Tier 1, the lowest possible pet value. At the very top, Tier 10, were pets like the Plushy Drake or the Royal Psy Bunnies. These were rare to own even before the conversion. Their species were difficult to obtain, their colors were extremely expensive or Rainbow Pool exclusive, and their art was universally adored. Very limited supply, sky-high demand. Pet names were ranked on a scale from very badly named, think XX86_Umineko_Rock68XX to very well named, something like Beatrice or Battler, a real name, with proper spelling and capitalization. And surprisingly, the name quality had a huge impact on the pet's overall value. A very well named Tier 1 pet could easily be worth as much as a badly named Tier 4 pet. Some traders would even accept a very well named converted pet in exchange for a very badly named unconverted one, especially in lower tiers. In theory, this allowed dedicated traders to gradually paperclip trade their way up the value ladder, if they were okay with ending up with a pet that had an eyesore of a name. Seeing how complicated the unconverted pet trading scene had quickly become, it turned out there was a big subsect of Neopets users that just didn't want to deal with all that. And so, the unconverted pet black market was born. Sketchy websites and forums began offering easy access to unconverted Neopets, for a price of course. A very badly named Tier 1 pet might go for just $10 US, while a very well named Tier 10 could cost hundreds. But the thing is, selling pets, Neopoints, or items for real-world money has always been a violation of the Neopets terms and conditions. If you got caught, your account would be frozen, with your expensive new pet deleted and your cash gone with it. But if all money exchanges and communications happened off-site, how would the Neopets team ever know? That layer of plausible deniability allowed the black market to thrive. And with it came a wave of chaos that would ripple through the Neopets community for years to come. Since unconverted Neopets were worth serious real-world cash, it's no surprise that entire businesses popped up to cater to the black market. But unlike Neopoints or site items, unconverted Neopets were an unrenewable resource. Once they were gone, they were gone. So to keep the supply flowing, many sellers turned to theft. Across forums, fan sites, and even the Neopian Times, countless users have testified that these black market pets were often stolen, most commonly from long-abandoned accounts that had been hacked. There were plenty of ways that an account could be compromised. One of the most common was the classic phishing fake login page, which many of us were warned about as kids. I fell for that once when I was like 7, and it ruined my life. It was the worst day of my 7-year-old life, I'll tell you that. Another was the use of cookie grabbers, scripts hidden in HTML that hijacked your active login session. A popular trick involved setting up a user shop with rare items listed at like ludicrously low prices to draw users in, and then hiding the cookie grabber in the shop's custom layout code. Then there was the old-fashioned brute force method. Since a lot of Neopets accounts were made by kids in the early 2000s, many of which didn't know jack squat about password security, hackers with the right software could easily crack into them in seconds. To make things worse, Neopets itself suffered multiple large-scale data breaches, one in 2016 and another in 2022, leaking a combined total of 96 million usernames, passwords, and other sensitive data. Needless to say, black market sellers and the hackers feeding them weren't exactly hurting for supply. When old users revisited the site and realized that their accounts had been hacked and that their beloved pets had been stolen, they often tried to turn to the Neopets team for help. But TNT's justice moved very slowly. Typically, TNT's first step was to freeze the compromised account to protect it. After that, it was up to the user to file a support ticket and somehow prove that they were the original owner of the account or the pet. Unfortunately, due to massive layoffs and corporate restructuring just before the data leaks began, response times for support tickets often stretched from 3 weeks to multiple years. In some cases, accounts couldn't be recovered at all, most commonly if the user was under 13 at time of registration. This was due to COPPA regulations that prevented Neopets from retaining the personal information of children, which left the Neopets team with no real way to verify the original owner of the account. Such was the case for this Neopets user who came to Reddit looking for guidance on getting their childhood account back. So I used to love Neopets. I played consistently from age 9 to 12, I'd say. I created my account in 2003. I had 4 Gellerts, all with unique names, no numbers or underscores. Occasionally, over the years, I'd check up on my account and make sure all my pets were still there and laugh at the cringy, totally random profile and pet sites that I had. Last night, I had a dream someone hacked into my account and put my pets up for adoption. It was terrible. I felt terrible. I had to check if it was real, if my pets were safe. So today I tried to log in. No luck. I created a new account with my current email and looked up my old account. Lo and behold, one of my pets are missing. I looked her up by name, Shailani, and there she is, still a Maraquin Gellert, but on someone else's account. My heart is broken. I plan on writing a ticket tonight when I get home. But is this a common thing? People steal pets? I'm sure she would have been a big fat target too, since she had such a rare paint job and a unique name. And the account was obviously not in frequent use. The girl who took her probably thought I'd never find out. Has anyone ever had an experience with something like this? Did you get your pet back? Do you think it's possible I'll get Shailani back? To OP's surprise, many users chimed in below, recognizing their missing pet by name, because they too had owned Shailani once before.
Commenter number 1.
I know the pet Shailani. I used to own her years ago. Shailani has been around the trading boards for a good 3 to 4 years now, and she's been through lots of people's accounts. As horrible as it is to say, I don't think you'll get her back.
Commenter number 2.
I traded for her 2 years ago at least, and traded her away months after. If she was stolen, it was a very long time ago, and the person who has her now definitely doesn't know she was stolen, because I had no clue years ago either. Unfortunately, trading unconverted pets is really the only way to get unconverted pets, so I'm not surprised that people steal them. I agree it's not the smartest idea from the Neopets team to keep them about, as it causes so many problems, but it would just cause even more problems if they removed them now.
Commenter number 3.
I bought Shailani a while back, roughly 4 to 5 years ago. She's only been with maybe 7 different people. Unfortunately, as it's been so long and you don't have access to your email, TNT may not give back your account unless you have a ton of information. Usually those sites only take from inactive accounts of people who haven't been on for ages, and they rarely come back, but I guess some do. I'm out of that business now, however, and I wish you luck on getting your account back. I definitely remember looking at your account to see how inactive it looked before I accepted the transfer. The commenter's prediction on the situation would unfortunately come true, as the OP left their final update just a few weeks later. Hi again, guys. Sad to say I got a response from the Neopets team, which said that since I was under 13 when I created the account, they have none of my information on file and I won't be getting my account back. I'm pretty disappointed, and I think this officially ends my involvement with Neopets. Hopefully this doesn't continue to haunt my dreams. While this particular story didn't have a happy ending, the silver lining was that, in most cases, the Neopets team did genuinely try to help returning users recover their stolen pets to the best of their ability. But unfortunately, that goodwill quickly became a loophole for exploitation. Some users began falsely claiming pets as stolen when they never owned them in the first place, essentially tricking the Neopets team into doing the stealing for them. In response to a support ticket, the Neopets team gave me the pet Cake from an active account instead of my actual stolen pet that was a plural, Cakes. I had to submit another ticket to get it corrected. Support will just do anything. Overall, the unconverted pet black market and the chaos that followed, coupled with the Neopet team's poor handling of it all, was honestly just one huge mess. Hackers made bank while countless nostalgic players were left heartbroken. And so, in January 2024, nearly 17 years after the original Neopet conversion event, hailed to be the most requested event in Neopian history, the Neopets team announced that finally, every single Neopian would have an equal opportunity to own an unconverted pet, without having to deal with any of the complicated pet trading and all of the risks that came with it. The Neocash pet style system was introduced to completely overhaul the way unconverted pets were handled entirely. The new system worked as follows. All of the remaining unconverted pets floating around Neopia were now finally being converted to the new art style. Those newly converted unconverted pets would be given a style item that matched their previous unconverted look. Any user, whether they previously had an unconverted pet or not, would be able to buy these style items from the Neocash Mall and make their pets appear to be unconverted. With the playing field being leveled by this new system, you'd think that Neopets users would be overjoyed. However, this long-awaited update came with a lot of unfortunate caveats. First, that it would cost $14 per pet style, and second, that not all unconverted pets would be available at the same time. Rather, the available unconverted pet styles would cycle and change once a month. Meaning, if you had your eye on a specific species color combo, you'd just have to wait until it popped up, with no real idea when that would happen. Luckily, users are allowed to trade Neocash items for other Neocash items. So in a way, the unconverted pet trading market wasn't completely destroyed by this change, but was now being handled in a way that the Neopets team profited from, rather than hackers and scammers. It is worth noting that users could purchase an unconverted pet style and immediately apply it to their Neopet, regardless of their Neopet's actual base color. Some Neopians flagged that this could completely undermine the paintbrush system entirely, and could potentially wreak havoc in the Neopets economy. After all, why would a user want to spend months grinding and saving 2 million Neo points for a royal paintbrush for their Side Bunny, if they could just shell out 14 bucks and get the royal Side Bunny pet style right away? Along with these criticisms and concerns with the new system, many Neopians voiced frustration and disappointment overall.
Commenter number 1.
I was fine with it until the forced conversion of current unconverted pets. I want my unconverted pets to be actual unconverted pets, not a generic converted with an unconverted wearable. I don't understand the need to fiddle with the unconverted pets that currently exist. It seems pointless. Leave them alone and just have the Neocash wearable for the new unconverted style pets.
Commenter number 2.
It's putting what used to be free, albeit hard to obtain, behind a paywall. There will now be no way to freely obtain unconverted pets, which is unfair when that used to be possible. Especially since, sure, it might end up being cheap for the Americans, but not everyone is American, and currency conversions can make it hard for people from some countries to be able to spend money on this game. It just doesn't sit right with me to paywall unconverted pets completely. They could have left the existing ones alone and just added the option for unconverted pet styles. And I believe that still would have wiped the majority of the black market profits, especially since the Neocash unconverted pet style will allow people to somewhat decide on the name of the pet you wish to be converted, something older unconverted pets don't have the luxury of.
Commenter number 3.
Forced conversion all those years ago was a stupid and horrible idea in the first place. I think it's fair for people to resent that their pets that escaped conversion the first time are now being forced converted. Just leave my damn pet alone. They've had, what, 15 years? I want to hear an official response in writing why they want to fuck with my pets again. Because the ones of mine that got forced converted the first time around are ugly. My Aisha is not a skin. Her converted version is butt-ass ugly. Just leave her alone, jeez. But among the negativity, many more users expressed great praise for the Pet Styles update. I'm really happy. As a system, I'm really glad to see the unconverted market burn. It's been a toxic and unsafe niche in the community that needed to be abolished to move forward in a healthy way. They're doing this in a way that still nods at the old market, but vastly opens up accessibility to the wider population for something that's been in demand. I also know there's some uproar about not requiring the paintbrushes, but I'm totally at peace with this. Neocash unconverted pet styles are a money grab, pure and simple, but they're They're a money grab for a site that's been on life support for years. If Neopets doesn't make money, then nobody gets the pretty pixels. This is the option they've chosen to prioritize real money profitability, and I can't fault them for it. Something I also found interesting is that with this Pet Styles update, new iterations of the beloved unconverted pets were also introduced. This included color variations for some of the royal Neopets, as well as a baby plushie hybrid style. Man, I know we would have just gone nuts for this in the 2000s. Like, I'm pretty sure I regularly saw people doing edits of stuff like this, so it's kind of fun to actually see it on the website today. Anyway, despite some of the fair criticisms, it feels to me that this update was the most realistic and fair solution to address all of the problems the former unconverted pet system had. Finally, the great Neopian justice that users had been waiting for since 2007 had finally been realized. It's just insane to me that it took nearly 2 decades for the Neopets team to bring it to fruition. Looking back on the whole situation, it's hard for me not to reflect on the ongoing cultural conversation around our relationship with digital goods. Whether it's software, games, or virtual currency, it's become all too common for access to these goods to vanish at the snap of a finger, often without warning or any way to get around it. People poured hundreds, even thousands of dollars into acquiring their dream unconverted Neopets, only to have that investment rendered meaningless when now anyone willing to spend $14 can suddenly get the exact same pet. Some might argue that those losses were deserved, since buying unconverted pets through the black market meant breaking the rules of the game. And I mean, fair point. But at the same time, many Neopians seem to be keenly aware of the fact that Neopets itself might be standing on its last legs, making the closure of the site a very real possibility, and thus rendering everyone's financial investments meaningless, whether they played by the rules or not. In response to Neopets changing ownership again in 2023, the 5th time in its 25-year history, Reddit user Fuzzy Millipede breaks down the situation. The simple facts of the matter are as follows. 1. Neopets has been running at a loss for over a decade. 2. Neopets has raised $4 million in funding from various investors, as well as additional funding from the management buyout. 3. Neopets is no longer a part of a larger company that it can siphon money from to stay alive. They are on their own now. 4. Neopets plans to launch ambitious new apps and features in order to become profitable and stay alive. The reality is that it will be extremely challenging for Neopets to execute on number 4. All of the other Neopets apps failed to make money and got shut down. As it stands, unless Neopets can become profitable, they will burn through that last $4 million and so run out of money and shut down. $4 million is not enough money to build an app the size and scope of World of Neopets. Furthermore, it will take years to build an app as complex as World of Neopets. Years that Neopets likely doesn't have, given the financial situation. All of that said, kudos to the new leadership team and especially their investors for putting their money on the line to give Neopets one last chance. These ongoing financial challenges seem to have pushed the Neopets team into prioritizing paid features like premium memberships and Neocash over many other site elements, leaving free-to-play users with little to do or aim for anymore. Most notably, for the 25th anniversary of Neopets celebration, the Neopets team launched a new quest system with new rare and valuable items as rewards, only to reveal that each and every quest task required spending real money on the site or purchasing expensive Neopets merchandise. This shift hasn't gone unnoticed, and many users now mourn the loss of the classic Neopets fun factor, frustrated by the slow but steady slide into a pay-to-win model.
Commenter number 1.
When I saw the banner for the new quests, I was excited because I thought it'd give me something to do on the damn website. And then I clicked on that, and it was all about buying Neocash, buying the Monopoly game, using Neopass, and spending time playing a game no one really likes, but still play because we get rewards on the damn website. I reread that like 3 or 4 times, like, surely there has to be something to do on the damn website, right? Something for those players outside of the dollar/euro zone where things are even more expensive, right? Of course there isn't, silly. Go buy Neocash. The Neopets team has been doing a lot of good things, and I'm glad they're still trying to keep the site alive. But they are also so money hungry, it's exhausting trying to navigate the website where every page has a badge for premium.
Commenter number 2.
It's just ridiculous. 25th anniversary, and there isn't anything new for regular players to do on the website that doesn't involve shelling out. All this while 50% of the website still hasn't been converted from Flash to modern HTML5.
Commenter number 3.
I understand that they need money to run the website, but it'd be fun if they understood that if the website was functional and and fun to be on, money would naturally come to it. It'd be a product people actually see value in, but instead, most premium players are paying out of pity and hoping that one day it might become functional. It's frustrating and bad for everyone. I think if there's one lesson to take away from the Neopets unconverted pet black market and the Neopets customization saga as a whole, it's how easy it is to get swept up in the thrill of collecting stuff, even when they're just digital items and their only real value is the initial dopamine hit they give you. There are plenty of videos that dig deeper than this one into the darker side of gacha game mechanics and the manipulative psychology behind pay-to-win models. But for me, this is the core takeaway. Before you drop hundreds of dollars on your favorite game, whether it's through legit channels or the black market, stop and ask yourself, how will you feel when that game or website inevitably shuts down? When all of those collectibles disappear and vanish into thin air, will you regret it? Or will the memories you made be worth every cent? Reddit user Lord Hayati sums it up quite nicely. I know everything looks bleak at the moment with the rampant neocash stuff, staff being laid off and fired, cheaters, Adam wishing for us to live in poverty, etc, etc. But the thing is, Neopets has lasted for so goddamn long, it's incredible. We survived the death of Flash, the NetDragon years, the Jumpstart years, but at the end of the day, the site will be shut down, whether it's soon or long down the road. And you know what? I'm okay with that. Neopets saved my life. It was an escape in my middle school years, stopping me from offing myself. Never quit once, actually. I got my money's worth out of Neopets hundredfold. Yes, I spent a bit of Neocash, some on events, some on capsules, some on fairy quests and pet slots, but that doesn't matter in the end. In the end, did you have a good experience? Was it worth playing Neopets? My answer will be yes. 1,000 times yes. We still have time. The proverbial hang time on the roller coaster before it drops one last time before it arrives at the station. And when it does arrive, please don't be angry. Be happy for all of the fun times Neopets provided. Let me know what you guys think. Would you spend 400 bucks on some sketchy black market website just to get the Neopet of your dream? Would you sell your Neopet for 400 bucks? I'm not gonna lie, I actually considered it a few years ago when I learned about this whole black market thing in the first place. I ended up just trading one of my unconverted pets for a converted robot Bruce I wanted instead, because I'm a good law-abiding Neopian, okay? But man, people were offering me like 400 bucks. It was really tempting. I personally have never really gotten into the whole like loot box or gacha game thing. I've probably spent like 40 bucks max on games like My Singing Monsters or Farm RPG, mostly just to support the game devs for making something I enjoy with the added bonus of a little extra boost. I don't know, I don't really think this kind of profit model is great, but honestly, it just kind of feels inevitable with how the internet, corporate greed, capitalism, and all that jazz works nowadays. Anyway, thanks for sticking around and watching the whole video. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and I hope to see you guys next time. Post-edit Amber here. I just want to end this video with a quick shout out to NeopetsClassic. I discovered it while I was doing the edit for this video, and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of been my new addiction. It's a super cool and extremely accurate recreation of the original Neopets website as it was before the Neopets customization update, and I used it a bunch in this video to fill in for old Neopets site cutaways. I definitely recommend signing up and giving it a shot if you're nostalgic for old Neopets, or if you just want a really addicting way to kill time online other than doom scrolling. But yeah, thanks to NeopetsClassic, and thanks again to you guys for watching.